Jay-Z just took his defamation fight to the next level, demanding his accuser be unmasked, and the courtroom drama is spiraling fast. But to understand how we even got here, you have to rewind back to late 2024. Out of nowhere, an anonymous woman known only as Jane Doe dropped a bombshell lawsuit accusing Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs of SA on her when she was just 13 years old, right after the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards. The claim shook the culture. Fans, media, everyone was scrambling, because this wasn't just a random tabloid rumor. This was a legal filing with names that defined hip-hop's golden era. Then came the twist. After months of speculation, Doe dismissed her suit in February 2025 with prejudice, meaning she couldn't refile. Most people assumed that was the end of the story. The case was over, the headline cycle would fade, and Jay-Z would move on. But that's not what happened. Because in March, Hov decided he wasn't letting this slide. He filed his own lawsuit, this time accusing Doe and her lawyers of defamation and extortion, claiming the whole story was fabricated to shake him down for cash. Even more shocking, his team said Doe had allegedly admitted the allegations were false. For fans, it was a whiplash moment. One minute, Jay-Z was the target of a devastating accusation. The next, he was flipping the script and going on the offensive. It left people wondering, was this about clearing his name, protecting his billion-dollar legacy, or proving a point about false accusations in the industry? Either way, it set the stage for one of the most high-profile legal battles in hip-hop history. And if you thought things couldn't get any wilder, September 2025 proved you wrong. Because Jay-Z didn't just keep the case moving quietly, he made a move that blew the lid off the courtroom and had fans completely split. When most celebrities get hit with explosive allegations, they either go silent or settle quietly to make the noise disappear. But Jay-Z, he flipped the whole playbook. Real quick before we dive deeper and get into all of the juicy details, only about 20% of the people who watch our videos are actually subscribed. Let's change that right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the wild drama we cover. In March 2025, just weeks after Jane Doe dismissed her original lawsuit with prejudice, Hov went on the offensive and filed a defamation case of his own in Alabama federal court, the state where Doe resides. This wasn't some half-hearted filing either. Jay-Z came swinging with heavyweight lawyers, accusing Doe and her team, attorneys Tony Busby and David Fortney, of straight-up fabricating the story in an attempt to extort him. According to Jay-Z's camp, Doe even admitted privately that the story was false. If true, that's a nuclear-level revelation because it suggests the entire 2024 headline storm was built on a lie. For Hov, this wasn't about just clearing his name in the court of law. It was about taking back control of the narrative in the court of public opinion. Think about it. Jay-Z isn't just another rapper. He's a billionaire mogul, the face of Roc Nation, Beyoncé's partner, and the father of 3 kids. His brand is tied to everything from streaming platforms to champagne deals. One unchallenged allegation, even dismissed, could stain that forever. By suing Doe, Jay-Z made it clear he wasn't just defending himself, he was sending a message. To his accuser, to the lawyers, and maybe to anyone else thinking about coming after him, false claims will cost you. Period. It was a bold, risky move, because the more aggressively he fought back, the more attention the case kept drawing. But Hov clearly calculated that the risk of headlines was smaller than the risk of letting the accusations linger unchecked. And just when people thought this case might slowly crawl through the legal system, Jay-Z's legal team cranked the heat up even higher. On September 7th, 2025, they dropped a motion that turned the whole thing from just another celebrity lawsuit into a cultural firestorm. Because now, they weren't just fighting over whether the claims were true or false. They were fighting over whether the world should know who Jane Doe really is. September 7th, 2025. Jay-Z's legal team dropped the hammer. In a bold new filing, they demanded that Jane Doe's identity be revealed publicly. Their argument? Keeping her anonymous was blocking Jay-Z from fully defending himself. His attorneys told the Alabama federal court that transparency was the only way to ensure a fair trial. Translation: if you're accusing one of the most famous men in hip-hop of something this serious, you don't get to hide in the shadows forever. It was a legal curveball nobody saw coming. Most cases like this let the accuser remain anonymous, especially when the claims involve minors, trauma, or sensitive topics. But Jay-Z's team clearly decided that anonymity gave Doe too much power, letting her throw accusations without accountability. They framed it as a matter of fairness. You can't smear Sean Carter's name on a global stage and stay behind a mask. It was like Hove saying, "If you're gonna throw dirt on my name, at least stand in the light." The move immediately divided the public. Some fans applauded Jay-Z for going all in, arguing he had every right to demand his accuser face him openly if the claims were false. Others felt it crossed a line, especially considering the original allegations were about a minor back in 2000. The headlines alone, Jay-Z pushing to unmask Jane Doe, turned this from a standard lawsuit into must-watch drama. And of course, the internet had jokes. Memes popped up of Jay-Z holding a Scooby-Doo mask, ready to unmask Jane Doe like a cartoon villain reveal. Others joked that he was treating the courtroom like a rap battle, trying to strip anonymity the same way he stripped rappers of credibility in diss tracks. But behind the memes was real tension. Because as explosive as Jay-Z's motion was, Jane Doe's team fired back immediately, and their counter-argument painted a picture just as dramatic. Jane Doe's lawyers wasted no time striking back, and their counter-argument was as heavy as it gets. They filed a response insisting that unmasking her wasn't just unfair, it could be catastrophic for her mental health. Backing their claim was psychiatrist Dr. John T. Olson, who submitted an affidavit saying that if her identity went public, it could destabilize her recovery and cause what he described as catastrophic psychological harm. In other words, revealing who Jane Doe is could break her completely. This shifted the battle from legal filings to human stakes. On one side, Jay-Z's team is pushing transparency and fairness. On the other, Doe's camp is framing anonymity as a matter of survival. Her lawyers argued that keeping her identity sealed is the only way she can keep functioning, and that stripping that protection would re-traumatize her in ways the court couldn't undo. It's not just about the trial anymore, it's about her ability to cope and heal. For fans, it became a moral tug-of-war. Supporters of Jay-Z point out that Doe already dismissed her original lawsuit with prejudice, meaning the allegations can't come back. They say she had her shot, and if she fabricated the story as Jay-Z claims, then anonymity is just a shield against accountability. Meanwhile, others argue that Hove doesn't need to take it this far. With Beyoncé, 3 kids, and a billion-dollar empire, his image is already larger than life. To some, his aggressive push to unmask Doe feels less like justice and more like intimidation. The courtroom, once just a venue for legal sparring, is now a stage for a bigger cultural debate. When does protecting an accuser's privacy cross over into violating an accused person's right to defend themselves? It's a question that doesn't have an easy answer, and that's exactly why this case is gripping so much attention. But while lawyers argue motions, the fans are fighting their own battle online, split between loyalty to Hove's legacy and sympathy for Doe's fight to stay hidden. The minute news of Jay-Z's motion hit X, the fan base fractured like a Rockefeller breakup. On one side, you had die-hard Hove supporters pulling receipts, reminding everyone of his untouchable run. Reasonable Doubt, The Blueprint, Rockefeller's dominance, and now his billion-dollar empire with Beyoncé. To them, this was simple. Jay-Z is protecting his legacy, his family, and his name. One post summed it up perfectly. Hove's fought too hard to be dragged by lies, unmask her, and let's move on. But the other side wasn't so forgiving. Critics argued that forcing Jane Doe into the spotlight felt cruel, especially since her allegations involved her as a minor back in 2000. They pointed to Beyoncé and the Carter kids, questioning how Jay-Z's aggressive legal strategy fit with the family man image he's carefully curated. One fan wrote, "You can defend yourself without destroying someone else's mental health." This ain't it. That sentiment spread quickly, fueling debates about whether power dynamics are tipping the scales in his favor. And then came the memes, because if there's one thing hip-hop Twitter loves, it's turning serious courtroom drama into culture commentary. One viral edit showed Jay-Z in a suit holding a magnifying glass with the caption, "Detective Carter on the case." Another had Beyoncé looking unimpressed, with text that read, "Jay, this better not mess up the tour." The internet found a way to laugh through the tension, but underneath the jokes was a real conversation about truth, justice, and celebrity power. What made it even messier was the overlap with Diddy's own 2025 legal chaos. Fans couldn't ignore the parallels. Two moguls tied together in allegations, both fighting to control their narratives. Some saw Jay-Z as distancing himself from Diddy's downfall by going on the offensive, while others thought it made him look defensive, like he was fighting shadows that wouldn't fade. At the end of the day, the fan reaction showed just how high the stakes are. This isn't just Jay-Z's personal battle, it's a cultural tug-of-war between protecting a hip-hop legend's legacy and respecting the fragility of an accuser. And with that tension boiling, the spotlight shifts to something even bigger: how this lawsuit could ripple into Jay-Z's empire and business moves in 2025. For Jay-Z, this fight isn't just about personal pride, it's about empire maintenance. By 2025, Hov isn't simply a rapper, he's a billion-dollar mogul with Roc Nation branching into sports, film, and global partnerships. Just days before this legal bombshell, he'd been teasing a new Roc Nation film project, a venture that could easily attract Hollywood-level investors. That kind of business only works if your brand screams credibility and stability. A shadow of scandal, even one dismissed in court, can cost millions in lost deals. That's why this defamation case feels so calculated. Jay-Z knows that if his name is attached to fabricated accusations, it threatens not just him, but every artist, athlete, and brand under the Roc Nation umbrella. He isn't just defending Sean Carter, he's defending an entire enterprise. From champagne partnerships to music festivals, his reputation is the currency, and he can't afford to let it devalue. The timing is no accident either. With Sean Diddy Combs already drowning in his own legal disasters, Jay-Z's aggressive push against Doe sets him apart. He's drawing a sharp line. I'm not Diddy, and I won't be lumped into his scandals. That separation is vital, especially for older fans and corporate partners who grew up with Hov's music and now buy into his mogul persona. In their eyes, protecting his brand means protecting hip-hop's most successful businessman. But this strategy comes with risk. Every motion he files keeps the story alive, dragging headlines back to allegations fans thought were buried. For every supporter who praises him as a genius businessman, there's another critic who sees a billionaire flexing his power to silence an accuser. The duality is striking. Half of the culture is inspired, the other half uneasy. And that's what makes the next phase so unpredictable. Because Jay-Z isn't just fighting in court, he's fighting to keep control of how his story is told, in the media, in boardrooms, and in the streets. The real question? Whether this gamble strengthens his legacy or leaves permanent cracks in the image he's spent decades building. So where does this leave Jay-Z? Right in the eye of a cultural storm. His lawyers have made it clear. They want Jane Doe unmasked, and they're not backing down. Her team is digging in too, warning of catastrophic fallout if her name goes public. That means the next court hearings won't just be about legal technicalities. They'll be about identity, privacy, and power on a scale hip-hop has rarely seen in a courtroom. The stakes couldn't be higher. If the judge sides with Jay-Z, we could see Jane Doe revealed, an unprecedented move that would set off debates across law schools, media outlets, and social platforms. If the judge sides with Doe, it could blunt Jay-Z's strategy, leaving him to prove defamation without pulling back the curtain on who accused him. Either way, it's a landmark moment that goes beyond celebrity gossip. This is about how America handles anonymity in high-profile cases. And for the culture, fans will keep debating every update. For some, this is Hov protecting his legacy with the same precision he once crafted the blueprint. For others, it feels like a billionaire using courtroom power moves to silence a vulnerable voice. That divide isn't going away. It's only going to intensify as the case drags on. What's undeniable is that Jay-Z isn't just defending himself, he's reshaping the rules of the game. In a year where Diddy's empire is crumbling under lawsuits, Hov is showing he'll fight tooth and nail to keep his untouchable. But will that fight end in vindication, or in headlines that haunt him no matter the verdict? One thing's certain, this isn't the last chapter. The gavel hasn't dropped, the culture hasn't made up its mind, and the secrets at the heart of this case still hang in the air. Stay locked in, because when it comes to Jay-Z's defamation war, the next revelation could change everything. Jay-Z's defamation battle isn't just a lawsuit, it's a clash of narratives, reputations, and legacies. From shocking accusations to motions that could unmask Jane Doe, this case has all the drama of a courtroom thriller with the cultural weight of hip-hop history. Hov is fighting for his name, his family, and his billion-dollar empire. But how far is too far when the cost is someone else's privacy? Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Jay-Z is right to push for Jane Doe's identity to be revealed? Or is this a dangerous step that could do more harm than good? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'll be checking them all. And don't forget, only 20% of the people watching are subscribed. Let's change that right now. Hit that subscribe button, smash the notification bell, and share this video with a friend who still remembers Jay-Z's Rockefeller era. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next, because this courtroom drama is just getting started.